Hello, Midtown. Thanks for joining us. We're here at Midtown Alliance World Headquarters here at 10th and Peachtree. Brian tells me that if I were in rate the room, I'd probably get about an 8. I've got the, let's see, I got the family portrait behind me. I've got the busy work over in the corner, the obligatory picture of the Balinese funeral. We're there. We got a lot of people blinking in. We have 487 people registered for this. Wow. So our capacity is 501, which is just kind of how we roll, man, with precision planning. Thank you all for joining us. When you registered, we asked you what was on your minds and what you'd like for us to cover. We appreciate your responses. We've got a lot of good questions, a lot of good topics. So we're going to structure this next hour around your questions. And I will start by kind of stating the obvious here, and that is, it's been a challenging year. Clearly, this is not the 2020 that any of us were expecting. This is an image from our annual meeting, which was the 25th of February. What, 7 months ago? Seems like about 7 years ago. Can you imagine 1,300 people in an auditorium sitting shoulder to shoulder right now? This is at the Fox Theater. So, you know, I remember mid-March thinking this was a 2 or 3 month process and we'd have this all under control. And here we are 6 months later and there's no end in sight. And we're all coping, I think, in new and different ways. If anyone would have asked me, what our banner program would be for 2020, I don't think I would have anticipated that it would have been a public health wear your mask banner. I don't think any of us would have. This is a public health campaign that we've recently launched. Our crack Marcoms team has put this together and actually made it available for other neighborhoods, other communities in Georgia and across the country. They can just change the Midtown moniker and make it their own. Sidewalk clings, socially distanced dance off. I never would have even conceived of such a thing. You know, we're all trying to find ways to lift up our community. There's a lot of heavy out there right now. One way we're doing it is through masks that give us a chance to kind of show our community spirit. And these have literally just arrived today. We've teamed up with local artists who have done work in Midtown. Andrew Catney's, who has done the work at the Midtown MARTA station, Stacy U. Rose, who's done the work at the Art Center MARTA station, and then former High Museum artist in residence, Jaime Hyon, have all teamed up and made us some really cool masks with their public art design. So if you want to earn one, you can take part in some kind of creative activities that our marketing team has got dreamed up as a part of our Keep Midtown Open campaign. You can snap a picture of yourself doing a socially distanced dance off or whatever it takes. You can design an uplifting street banner, or another way to get a mask is buy one at one of our local retailers starting next week. So we're gonna try and, you know, lift up ourselves out of the doldrums as much as possible here. So a number of questions that we've got dealt with both the short-term and the long-term impact to Midtown and our community with this kind of disruption that we've been living through. And so we'll start with that. And, you know, by any measure, this pandemic has been a colossal disruptor for us. As we await a vaccine or some kind of medical intervention, it's pretty clear that challenges are going to extend well into 2021, perhaps beyond. So aspects of this new normal are going to remain for a while. And as we've also experienced, in addition to challenges associated with the pandemic, it's been further intensified by this national awakening around social justice and racial equity and policing reform, all of which kind of adds to the disruptive element, but also invites the potential for really positive changes. So that's really the theme that we're rallying around right now, which is how do we take this disruption and channel it into positive outcomes. And we'd encourage you to think about this and communicate your ideas to us. We're not out to reinvent ourselves. We're as busy as ever. We're going to touch on a lot of what we got going on today in very shorthand versions. You know, our leadership is clear that we need to stay the course and continue to do what matters, and that only makes sense. And the overriding premise that we're all working on right now is that walkable mixed-use urban places like Midtown are going to continue to thrive as choice locations, because these are the places that provide the lifestyle and the convenience that attracts people and investment and talent, and really those fundamentals haven't changed. They're just kind of dormant at the moment. So, you know, we see this as an opportunity to continue doing what's important, but also take a fresh and new look at some things. Not only what we do, but how we partner with people, how we make the case. It includes issues like public safety to some extent, you know, the increasing importance of functional outdoor spaces and how to activate and adapt those spaces. Diversity, inclusion, how to build a place that feels safe and welcoming for all. So, you know, we're out to be forward thinking and really anticipate the conditions that as they change, and we want to be bold. So questions around where are we today, questions about occupancy, particularly office occupancy, both short-term and potential long-term. Our team is surveying office buildings every couple of weeks, and not surprisingly, the office occupancy now is about 15%, which means, you know, there's about 70,000 daytime workers that aren't here right now. We've surveyed employers in terms of what do they suspect their timelines are for returning a critical mass of workers, and, you know, those timelines are understandably unclear. You know, as we start school here, it's hard to imagine returning large numbers of workers, you know, while the school situation is still not really worked out. But, you know, it's clear to us and everybody else that, you know, more employers have embraced the productivity of work from home. I think it surprised us a lot in terms of how easy it was to make the flip for a lot of roles. You know, technology is enabling us to do things like we're doing right now. But there's a real value add to being together in a workplace. You know, with Zoom, we realized how much time we were spending traveling to different meetings, and, you know, with us, we can get the city on a Zoom call and we can have all the departments represented, and people can go off the call and come back on the call and solve a problem. So there are real silver linings here. But the energy and the motivation and that you get by being with people and interacting and getting feedback and the creative process you have is really hard to achieve sitting alone in your home office. So, you know, as we see it, for office users, space needs may change over time, tenant mixes may change. Who knows, rents may soften, we're not sure, but, you know, these tall office buildings that we're looking at are not going anywhere, and they're going to continue to have tenants in them. And I think the two big announcements that we've gotten over the last couple of months, you know, one by Microsoft and one by Google in Midtown, are, you know, these are announcements that came in the middle of a pandemic, are really a bellwether that the fundamentals are still here. So, you know, meanwhile in Midtown, residential occupancy is close to 100%. Life in captivity. Retailers are all open. Restaurants, we've got about 150 in this 1.2 square mile area of Midtown. 135 are open for dine-in and or patio dining. You know, 5 are open for to-go only. 10 have temporarily closed. You know, we've worked with the city to loosen restrictions around expanded outdoor dining and to provide dedicated drop-off spots for pickup dining. But I think we got to acknowledge that, you know, if you're a restaurant, for example, and you're operating at 50% capacity, you know, for many restaurants, that's just sort of permission to lose money every day. So please continue to support your local restaurants and retailers and help them get through that, get through this. It's important. We're in contact with our peers in major cities throughout the country. I was in Austin, Texas last week, dropping a newly minted college freshman off at school. And, none of this is unique to Atlanta, but I will say that unlike others, in Midtown, we don't have boarded up storefronts. And that's great. I mean, the demonstrations that have happened, that have gone through Midtown have been basically entirely peaceful. Hats off to Atlanta Police Department, who escorted and provided, I think, the room for those demonstrations to happen and diverted traffic, and it all worked out exceptionally well. So we feel really fortunate. Midtown hotels all are open. As you can imagine, extremely low occupancy, slightly better on weekends, but tough. Brian, I'm not sure if you're able to advance any of these slides or not, but we may be kind of stuck. The trials of technology and webinars. But, we've got some of our arts and cultural attractions that are open. Venues like the Fox will probably be among the last to open. Meanwhile, they're doing a lot of deferred maintenance and doing some creative virtual things. The Atlanta Botanical Gardens has, believe it or not, expanded their hours. They're now 7 days a week, and their business is up 60% year over year. Obviously benefits to being an outdoor venue. So there are some silver linings here. I think Alliance Theater is planning a socially distant fall season. Another thing that's clear as you move around Midtown is the number of unsheltered people has also increased. And homelessness is among the most vexing challenges of these times. The long-term solution is housing, and there's not enough. Short-term solutions with available beds and social services that rely largely on churches and faith-based organizations and nonprofits, they're strained. Other than Grady, there's no place to go for people having a mental crisis or in need of crisis detox or other services. And with a pandemic, Grady is severely strained. We've worked through Partners for Home, supporting their Home First initiative and intensifying our outreach efforts as well. And we're having some success. They're having some success, but obviously in a very challenging environment. We understand that the homeless count has increased. It's probably in Midtown double what it was pre-COVID. And we also recognize that the category of what is homeless is a pretty large cross-section of people, ranging from chronically homeless, long-term homeless, to people who sleep outside, get up and go to work. So this, along with public safety, was really among the topics that generated the most questions. So we're going to spend a few minutes here and also talk some about our role as it relates to public safety. And I would really start by saying a lot of what we do relates to safety and security, and it's everything from installing 1,000 light poles in the public right-of-way as part of our street safe projects, to our green team, keeping things looking sharp, to the transportation enhancements and the new outdoor public space we're creating. But the most directly involved is what you see on the screen right now, which is our Midtown Blue program. This includes our public safety officers, which you see Christian right there, and then also our off-duty APD officers. Just by way of review, this is a program that operates 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Combined hours of coverage is about 520 hours a week right now with current staffing. With the pandemic, we've obviously had to modify our operations a little bit. We've had a couple of our team members that have tested positive for COVID-19, resulting in some quarantines and some stepped up protocols. Our focus with this program, I think, as people really know, is the public right-of-way. It's the streets and sidewalks of Midtown, which is kind of where you create the community vibe. We stretch this into private property if it's immediately adjacent to the public right-of-way where we can. But our ability to operate on people's private property is somewhat limited. First, we got legal constraints, but also some practical limitations, namely the fact that there are, gosh, probably more than 500 buildings in Midtown, and no entity like ours can act as private security. So building owners are stepping up, and we're here to support them where we can. Where we've got a letter of agency, we can legally work to enforce criminal trespass. And that's what we're doing. We do wake-ups and wellness checks every morning. And our program is frankly evolving, and it's evolved over time. We used to be all APD off-duty officers in police uniforms, and 4 years ago, we introduced this public safety officer program to really try and handle a lot of things that we could do. And it's worked. We've gotten to know businesses and property owners and building security and our other public safety partners. We've found that we can establish relationships. We get to know our homeless population, which is so critical in establishing and gaining the trust that they need to avail themselves of the social services that are available. But here we are operating in a pandemic. And, a couple of things that have been challenging. One is it's a pandemic. Fulton County Jail has released more than 400 nonviolent offenders in April because jails are very difficult environments to control a pandemic and contagion. So, for this same reason, our county and city jails often won't accept or hold people arrested as they traditionally might have, except in very limited circumstances involving serious offenses, which in turn means that there is an element of people who might want to make trouble, violate ordinances. They feel emboldened now because any threat of arrest is seen often as somewhat of an empty threat. At the same time, I think, and I'm being very candid here, it's not lost on any of us that APD officers feel under intense pressure and scrutiny with regard to their interactions with the public and with anybody, which is understandable in light of what's been going on. And I think it's also understandable just given the limited tools that are available, like arrest that I just mentioned. So what we're seeing, I think, is that they're directing more attention towards serious offenses, less likely to engage on what some would call quality of life offenses. And so with this backdrop, this is what we're operating within. Our goals are unchanged, which is really to keep Midtown a safe and a welcoming place. The current environment just makes it more challenging, not just for public safety, but for all of us trying to do a lot of different things. Other questions involve what's going on with crime. And good news is the overwhelming amount of crime in Midtown remains nonviolent crime. I mean, 94% of Part 1 crimes in the Midtown Improvement District is nonviolent property crime, which is down about 15% from this time last year, year to date, which leaves 6% of our crime, which is violent or person-on-person crime. That's down 30% year over year. And, if you're curious, we make all these crime statistics available on a monthly basis. Even with the person-on-person crimes, which are the ones that we also obviously focus on, a lot of that involves domestic, and it happens within apartments or hotel rooms. When we look at stranger-on-stranger crimes like pedestrian robberies, here's a factoid: we've had 4 pedestrian robberies all this year. So knock on wood. But we can make these crime statistics available for you. Other questions that we got, and I'm spending a good bit of time on public safety because it really was the majority of questions that we had today. Questions, clarify who to call when we see an incident that we may encounter. And I'll just tell you, the bright line is, we've got a Midtown Blue program, but the bright line is call 911 and Midtown Blue in just about every instance. A lot of the time, Midtown Blue is going to be first on the scene because we're here. And if Midtown Blue or one of our off-duty officers can clear a call before APD arrives, then APD will be notified. But if you see something that's suspicious that you think doesn't look right, might be a crime in progress, you see or encounter a situation that makes you concerned for your safety or the safety of others, or you see a person that you think may be in physical distress, don't hesitate. Call 911, report what you see in detail, then call Midtown Blue, tell us what you see. So, numbers 404-817-0500. So write that down, put it on speed dial. That number rings our 24/7 dispatch, 817-0500. If you have something that you don't think is a 911 call, or it's not urgent or not serious, but really just have a question, give us a call. We can direct you, but we man that phone line 24/7. Noise disturbances, call 911 and then call Midtown Blue. We can't give citations for noise disturbances, but we can often fix them. If nothing else, we're going to see a pattern of calls, and we can approach property owners if that's what it is, whether it's loud exhaust fan or amplified music. A lot of questions about moving violations and street racing. 100% call 911. Let us know too, but I will say that one thing Midtown Blue can't do, even with off-duty officers, we cannot issue moving violations. We can do parking violations. Illegally parked vehicles, give us a call. If it's a bunch of them, give 911 a call as well. Illegal valet operations, 911. That's the way it works at this point. Captain Clay is in charge of Zone 5. We don't have a current Zone 5 commander, and he has just reinforced the fact that we want to document the number of calls that we're getting and the number of incidents we've got, because that's how staffing levels are determined, and how resources are deployed. So continue to call 911. That's Captain Clay's advice. Among other questions that we got that were kind of uplifting is questions like, what can we do? We see an uptick in the number of homeless. What can we do? And I think we all recognize, many of us are weathering this pandemic as professionals. We live in this internet-ready place that'll accommodate, telecommuting, and many of us continue to work pretty seamlessly from home. That's not the case with everybody. We're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. I think we can reasonably expect the income gap that was already widening in Atlanta and beyond to accelerate as a result of this crisis. Meanwhile, the moratoria against evictions, residential evictions, is now lifted, and courts in Fulton County have resumed processing dispossessory actions. The moratoria against having utilities cut off for not paying bills is also lifted. So this is going to be a very challenging time. We're putting together some resources for people. I was on a call and a hat tip to Midtown Neighbors Association and Courtney and her Public Safety Committee. They had a really solid approach to this issue a couple of weeks ago that included a number of people working not only in homeless services, but pre-arrest diversion and public safety. So we'll work together to amplify that and make those resources available. And lastly, I'd just say, next time you see an APD officer, wave. If you have the opportunity to say something to them, tell them you appreciate what they're doing under very difficult circumstances. Same with our public safety officers and our green team. These are people that are showing up, they're bringing it every day. They have been since this whole pandemic started, and they're going to continue to do so. Here's an interesting thing that just blinked up. This is, when we say we work public safety is more than just patrolling and doing things you traditionally think of as public safety. This is the planter. We just coordinated with the owner of 811 to have this installed. It just got planted within the last couple of days. This has been a problem area for us in terms of congregants, particularly from the QT, which in this era with a pandemic is not great, and there wasn't a lot of room to get around. So this is not only make this parking lot comply with what they're required to do in terms of buffering, but also make it less likely that we're going to get a large congregation of 24/7 people gathering and drinking on this knee wall. So Midtown Green, we got also questions about trash. And yeah, interestingly, the amount of trash that we pick up, not that's in cans, but that's not in cans, that we're picking up on the side of the road, on sidewalks and streets, has doubled pre-pandemic. It's gone from about 10,000 pounds removed per month to over 20,000 pounds. I'm not exactly sure what to attribute that to, but they're staying busy. And both, by the way, both our Midtown Blue and Midtown Green programs are also staffing up and hiring. So if you know somebody you think would be a good fit for these programs, please let us know. We're going to seg into a different topic in the interest of time, which is transportation. A lot of folks have asked us about the status of our transportation projects. And first I would kind of refer you to our resource page on our Midtown ATL website and our monthly Midmo. These are great places to get up-to-date information. We update this stuff every month. We got a record number of projects on our plate. We're busy. This work continues unabated. So we got questions like, where are we in the process of complete street projects, updates regarding new dedicated bike lane paths, etc. So by way of background, 1 square mile of Midtown, there are about 65 miles of travel lanes because they're multi-lane streets. So currently 99% of those are dedicated to cars. About 1% have protected lanes for bikes and other mobility devices. So our goal is to repurpose about 8% of those existing vehicle lanes to create a connected network of what we call multimodal lanes, get scooters off the sidewalks, etc. And we've also worked with the city, and hats off to the city for announcing their Safer Streets initiative with a quick build. And so this is a project you're going to hear a little bit more about from Lauren in just in a minute in terms of some potential open space opportunities this creates. But this is Spring and West Peachtree, quick builds that are underway this summer. Spring runs from 14th Street all the way down to 3rd Street. West Peachtree starts at 14th Street and ends at North Avenue. We're looking to maybe extend it further south than that. This is a temporary, or not a temporary, this is a quick build separated bike lane. And I think we're going to see permanent striping scheduled for the end of this month on Spring Street and bollards after that. I think we've had a lot of rain, so we may get a little bit of a delay on that, but coming soon, very soon. West Peachtree we expect to be done later this fall. This is truly a quick build. This is kind of record time, consider the glacial pace that a lot of projects proceed at. So more on this project in just a second. Really quickly, Juniper, not a quick build project. This is a project that's been years in the making. It's a $9 million project that runs from 14th to Ponce. It's got federal money, state money, city money. It's got historic trolley tracks under the tarmac. Long time coming. Bottom line, out to bid by the end of this year. We should start construction by March of next year. It's a 2-year construction program with little bite-sized lane closures of about 300 feet at a time as this project works its way either south to north or north to south, depending on what the contractor wants to do. Piedmont, Ponce de Leon to 15th Street. This is a northbound protected lane to complement the southbound bike lane that's planned for Juniper. Scope also includes sidewalk, ADA, that kind of stuff. Looks like we may have a little hang up on our slides, so we'll keep on rolling. 5th Street, this is a real mixing bowl of a lot of different things that's going on around Tech Square, Williams to Myrtle. Upgrade existing bicycle facilities. We're designing for curbside management, bike lanes, etc. Brian's trying desperately to get our slides back on, so we're going to keep rolling. Total budget $3 million. We just got a grant, $750,000 last month from State Road and Tollway Authority, so we're rolling and going. 15th Street extension. This is a new street. It's going to be a real game changer. It'll be a new street from Williams to West Peachtree with bike lanes, and about a $4 million project, and it's moving, and construction to be determined, but we got a lot of design left to do on it. 10th Street, this is a bridge project. It's kind of losing its luster without the pictures. About a $7 million project. We're still scoping it and looking to move forward. Again, all these updates are going to be on our website. So in the interest of time, I'll just kind of stop here on the transportation side and get to some of your questions. Questions about two-way conversions. You know, we are trying to convert streets to two-way travel whenever we can. Mainly those are going to be east-west streets because the volumes on the north-south streets are just too much, but we're trying to improve access and accessibility. This summer, we completed two-way conversions on 13th Street, on 3rd Street, and on 4th Street. Let's see, that's 5th Street that just blinked up. So there's some of our two-way conversions that are going on right now. Longer term, there's some other minor two-way conversions that we're looking at. A short segment of West Peachtree, South and North Avenue. Bottom line is these large corridors of West Peachtree, Spring, Juniper, Piedmont, the volumes just are not there to do two-way conversions there. So we're really not looking to do any two-way conversions along those major corridors at this point. Kind of our grab bag of questions. Scooters are back. What do we do? How do we enforce rules prohibiting the use of dockless mobility devices on sidewalks? The answer is report violations to 311. That's atlanta311.com. The city is going to be conducting audits of the permitted vendors to make sure they're complying, as well as enforcing the rules. I think we can all see the volume is there's not very many there's not nearly as many as that were there before. But the city can issue fines, citations. They can reduce the number of permitted devices. They can revoke a permit altogether. And those are all detailed in the administrative regs. Other questions about, you know, the repair of our streets and how, you know, they're maintained. You know, these are issues that the city is responsible for. I will say that the city and I think the state have made major strides with funding the Renew and T-Splosh program to resurface a number of streets in Midtown. You can follow along through our Midtown monthly newsletters. And they're also much more responsive than they have been to enforcing the repair of damage done by utility and communication companies and contractors, and in some cases, private development. Other questions about lane closures, question about 5th Street in particular. 5th Street is closed temporarily to cars. It's not closed for 2 years, as some people think. There is a lane on Juniper that's going to be closed for a while, but 5th Street is going to be closed for a short time and then reopen. You know, keep track of lane closure programs to the Atlanta 311 program or not. Or if you got questions, just let us know. Let's move on to new development for a second. This is what's happened just in the last 10 years. Go ahead and cycle through those, Brian. I mean, this is Midtown. This is new buildings that have been delivered, about 14 million square feet in recent years. These are the projects that are currently under construction. That's about 16, and these are the projects in orange that have cleared the development review process. So if you add them all up, about 75 new buildings have been delivered in Midtown since 2010, and that's a lot. That's more residents added to Midtown in the past decade than the previous 6 decades combined, and about 3,500 new jobs announced. So, you know, you've asked, do all these buildings under construction continue to move forward? The answer is yes. They continue unabated. Obviously, all of them have construction loans, and so they're adding about, I guess, 5 million square feet with lots of new office, hotel, and residential. And so Carl's got a short video he's going to present here, captained by Brian Carr, our designated drone pilot, and we're going to cut to that if technology works.
New steel and concrete towers. blockbuster projects that will transform our skyline, colorful public art installations that will change the way you usually see things at street level. You might be surprised by how much Midtown is growing and improving. Check out this mashup of fresh development highlights and activation projects that are making amazing progress while many of us have been busy with other things. Just opened at 10th Street and Spring Street is a 28-story white-clad building from City Life Partners known as The Mark. It includes 740 new student bedroom offerings and ground floor retail. At 4th and West Peachtree Streets, Phase 1 of Portman's Anthem Technology Center looks healthy in its recent opening. In total, it provides 675,000 square feet of new office, retail, and banking. Where Juniper Street meets 5th Street, J5 by Deju now offers much more than ABC. It's 150 new ultra-modern condo units that just opened. A sizable number of wonderful developments are plugging away under construction. Rising at 17th and Spring Streets is the giant Midtown Union project by MetLife and Granite Properties. This transformative project will bring new retail, residential, and hotel uses along with the sleek new Invesco office headquarters. Just up from the corner of Main and Main, the artful expansion of North American Properties Colony Square continues unabated with their new 500 building. The new curved 6-story office and retail building will embrace the 15th Street Park as its front door. Along West Peachtree at 13th, the dramatic cross-bracing of Selig's 1105 complex will serve as a showpiece for a number of high-profile tenants, including Marriott's Autograph Collection and Google's regional offices. At the landmark intersection where Ponce meets Peachtree, south of the Fox Theater, the Dual Hotel by Noble continues skyward. The historically sensitive design will offer stays with Marriott Courtyard or the Element brand, with more than 280 total rooms. Chugging along at the corner of 3rd and West Peachtree Streets is Cousins Norfolk Southern Headquarters building. At the end of the line of construction, this campus will feature nearly 1 million square feet of office space overlooking a new public plaza. A quick sneak peek at other projects set to break ground in the future includes 8th at West, another project from Cousins that will feature a 31-story building of nearly 500,000 square feet of office and ground floor retail. The corner of Spring Street and 10th Street will see Portman bring to life a massive mixed-use project surrounding the old Spring Hill Mortuary. Ultimately, it will include 3 towers of residential, office, and hotel uses. Seeing the skyline fill in a little more each day is awesome. Even better is where the people are found on the ground. So let's switch gears and talk about recent and upcoming activation projects we know you'll love. First up, an extension of the lush Andrew Catanese mural across from the south side of Midtown's MARTA station. Having the mural on both sides of the street creates a fun gateway experience with striking visuals that merge together Aesop's Fables and Southern Gothic. Big changes are coming this fall to the 10th Street Park, where a new concept will transform the green space into different rooms for activities. Watch for a fetching new dog park, a fun play space, and a flexible hardscape area. In Atlanta's heart of the arts, we're excited to continue our partnership with MARTA to bring an edgy mural by Stacy Rose to the reimagined Arts Center Station Plaza fronting West Peachtree Street, complete with new seating and landscaping. Lots of exciting changes are underway. And though we can't be together right now, there will be lots more to explore whenever you make it back to the heart of it all.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this quick glance at some of the recent and forthcoming development activity in the district. There's so much to be excited about and look forward to seeing it take shape in coming months. For more details on these great projects and others, you can always download our monthly summary available online in the Resource Center under New Development. Even easier, you as an attendee tonight can download a copy of this development tour in the handout section of this webinar. I'm going to hand it now back to Kevin to talk about some ongoing public projects as coming attractions that we're also delighted to share with you.
All right. Thank you, Carl. There's a lot going on, isn't there? Just a couple of kind of previews of coming attractions. I think many people know this is a big idea project that Portman is advancing. They are now authorized to negotiate with MARTA over a transit-oriented development at the North Avenue MARTA station. So if you've seen the renderings, it's a pretty amazing concept. I mean, that is the North Avenue MARTA station underneath the tower there. So that would be a pretty amazing air rights transit-oriented development site. So we're sky high in Midtown for sure. Another big idea that I think many of you have tuned into is this Midtown Connector project. This is a project that's proposing an interstate connector freeway improvements along with local network street connections across the connector, and really a park or a lid that covers the freeway from North Avenue to 10th Street, really knitting this area of our city back together. It is very much in a feasibility stage, but a couple of weeks ago, they just completed an online public information open house where over 4,000 people participated. And the public information open house is a standard requirement for a project of this size and scope that would be seeking federal and state review and guidance and support. It's being honchoed very ably by a dedicated staff known as the Midtown Connector Park Foundation, Midtown Connector Project Foundation, and they're putting a lot of work into it. So people have asked, how do we stay tuned in on this since the public information open house, which is really the debut of this project? And I would tune you into the website that's being it'll be in operation ongoing. That's mctip.org to follow along, and then you'll see in the near future there will be some other topic-specific online information sessions that are offered. But very exciting, transformative project for our city. Speaking of public spaces, I think we're all observant of the fact that we need functional outdoor spaces now more than ever. You know, while we're spending a disproportionate amount of our time doing digital activities, you know, these outdoor public spaces and human connections, even at a distance, matter a whole lot. I've had more outdoor meetings in the last month than I ever have before. And we know that these spaces can be designed and programmed to facilitate distancing or congregating, depending upon what the circumstances will allow. And we also know that the installations that happen in these areas can adapt to these changing conditions. So we're working with property owners to make the case to activate spaces that are on their property. At the same time, we're working on public right-of-way. This is a rendering of Commercial Row Commons, which is scheduled to start construction later this year, which will be taking basically underutilized space and a couple of parking spaces and turning it into a place for people. We're also working at 15th Street, the southwest corner, 15th and Peachtree. I remember this sculpture that was at Colony Square. It's now kind of warehoused, but it'll come back to life on this corner. And we're looking to start construction on these improvements later this year as well. Probably last about 6 months. You know, spaces of all sizes and shapes matter. Looking out my window from 10th and Peachtree, it's a great time to be a dog. Dogs seem to be getting a lot of attention these days. We've got a lot of pet waste stations that are getting a lot of use. So these places matter as well. And then lastly, back to this Spring and West Peachtree project, I'm going to pitch it to Lauren to talk for just a minute about some of the open space opportunities that this project presents.
Thank you, Kevin. Hi, Midtown. This is a really exciting project for us because not only are we gaining more and safer mobility options on these key corridors, but they are creating these functional public outdoor spaces, like Kevin said. So for the most part, along these routes, the on-street parking has been preserved, but there are a couple places where, just in order to minimize conflict, they will be transformed into great outdoor spaces called parklets. So you can see on the screen now 4 places where space large enough for a parklet will be accommodated. On the left, University House and Standard, which are along Spring Street. And then on the right, McRae's Tavern and 18P, which are along West Peachtree. Obviously, we've got a lot of good restaurant and retail at University House and Standard in particular. So we're currently in conversation with those retail tenants and the property owners to understand how we can answer some of their concerns and meet their needs, especially when it comes to providing some options for easy pickup that support the retailers. But we've got a really exciting opportunity here, and we're also working with these tenants to imagine something different, something that serves their businesses and their customers. And it's a conversation that I'm here to invite all of you to be a part of today as well. Here are a few examples of parklets. Maybe you've seen them before. I know Midtowners are a well-traveled bunch. These are just a few examples from San Francisco, Sao Paulo, and I believe London. But there are inspiration images abound. So we want to hear from you. Which of these designs stand out to you? What do you like about it? You can really see from these images how the slim linear spaces of parking spaces get turned into really nice extensions of the sidewalk and places for outdoor dining that support restaurant and retail. And so that's very much a concept that we're exploring with some of our restaurant tenants at the moment. But there's also space for other ideas. Perhaps that means whimsical sculpture, or Wi-Fi and a charging station to enable some of these spaces to serve as co-working spaces, or play and games. Maybe it provides amenity for the four-legged Midtowners. And at the very least, we can provide some parking for bikes and scooters that serve these new bike lanes and keep our sidewalks clean and clear for pedestrians. So there's a lot of options, and we want to hear from you what you would like to see and what would make these great spaces. So please be on the lookout for some follow-up correspondence from us. There will be a link to a survey. It's very quick, easy breezy, but we're going to have that open for just a couple weeks. This project is moving really quickly. We've got a design team ready to go. So we're waiting to hear your thoughts and bring them to life. Thanks.
Thank you, Lauren. So just another pitch for staying in touch with us. We put out a really newsy, easy to read, easy to deal with monthly newsletter every month. It's got the latest and greatest with links where you can dive faster into timely issues. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. The information is on the screen right there. We've also got a very robust news center that we keep up to date as well. So if you want to know the latest and greatest about Midtown, this is a wonderful place to go. We're also looking at creative ways to engage our, kind of community while we're still separated and somewhat in captivity. So look for this. This is a new pilot program on our part called the Midtown Masterclass. It's going to be interactive, and it's going to be classes where we're going to have individuals that are able to help us, bring to life the things that some of us kind of miss about Midtown in terms of arts and culture, in terms of dining and drinks. So we got local creative talent in September that's going to deliver kind of a local twist on this class, and so you can get virtual demonstrations in terms of how to do things and how to make things, and we're looking forward to seeing how that works. So lots of ways to stay connected with us. As always, we love to hear from you. So if you have any ideas that you haven't heard about in this afternoon's call, or that you have questions about, please don't hesitate to reach out and we will respond. And with that, I guess I will give us 7 minutes back. We'll end a little bit early and say thank you very much for participating. Hang in there, Midtown. Thanks for being here. Be well.